What is going on, guys? I'm back on the mic today from Spectral Sound, and today we are going to be remaking the main drop lead from the song After All by Slander and Yookie. Here's a bit of the drop right here, and here's my remake. You can hear them both side by side. Alright, that is the sound. It's a pretty nice recreation there. Pretty nice recreation. The drums are just, just normal 808 stuff, Kick, 808, couple snares. I just threw those in there. They're not exact. They just are used to fill in space and to have something to sidechain to. Alright, here's the Serum Patch. Let me show you what it sounds like by itself. Not too complicated of a sound here. Not too complicated. I get these kind of requests, these detune trap leads a lot. I've gotten at least 4 of them, I think, before, and they're all basically the same principle. Detune saws mainly, and a reverb filter depending on the sound. Now before I do this, let me just go over post-processing. All we have is a little bit EQing, ducking the low end because there's some distortion going on, and just sculpting the high end. You see I bumped down the really high frequencies because they were a little piercing, and those are stuff we can't really hear. So I just cut those out, and then a soft clipper just to add a little more distortion and a little more power. That's all that's for. Other than turning it down because it sounds loud as heck, that's all that's going on outside of Serum. So let's get right into the Serum Patch. Alright, actually both of them are saw waves, like I just said. And one is down 2 octaves, one is up 1 octave. They both have 16 voices on them. The detune for the first one is very wide at 0.54. I have the blend all the way up for this one, so we're getting all the detune frequencies. You can see when I turn the blend down, we get those two middle voices going really loud, and then when you turn it all the way up, those are ducked down while the really detuned ones are left normal. So that's what we wanted for that. For this one, the detune is all the way up. We're getting a full 1 semitone up, down 1 semitone, up 1 semitone. Getting the full range there with the blend up all the way, so extremely detuned. You almost can't get any more detuned than this. So the level of oscillator A is at 40%, and the level of oscillator B is at 60%. Let me just go and turn everything off because I forgot to do that. Alright, now go into your matrix. You want to select LFO1 for the source. What we're doing right here is going to be the main vibrato. So go into LFO1, create this kind of triangle shape. You could leave it the normal triangle that it has in here, but I like it this way because it's at like a 0 phase. It starts and ends at the 0 crossing, and because it's going to be going back and forth. It's not going to be it's not going to start at the bottom there and then go upward. It's going to start in the middle, then go down and up, which basically means it's bipolar, which you can control that right here. If it were unipolar, this would mean this would be the original sound, and it'd be going up and down to the original sound. But we want it to go slide down, then up to normal, then up 1 semitone, then down. Well, not necessarily 1 semitone. It just depends on how much you have how much amount you have on the sound. Alright, turn the destination to global master tune right there. And then for the aux source, you want to select the mod wheel. That way we can control how much vibrato the sound has with the mod wheel. Because selecting the aux source is basically the equivalent of assigning this little fader right here to something else like an LFO or what I've done here, the mod wheel. So now moving the mod wheel up and down can control the vibrato. But just put this on 2 and you should be good with a nice deep vibrato. This is what it sounds like. Alright, it's time to fill it out with a reverb filter. Route oscillator A and the noise through this. I'll get to the noise in a sec. The cutoff is going to be at 8 Hz. That's all the way down. So normally you don't do this all the way down because you get a weird like delay reverb kind of sound. But it's okay to do it in this instance because there's a lot of that characteristic in the original sound. So the resonance is at 45%. You don't have to mess with the pan. It's fine the way it is. Don't have any drive, and the mix is at 56%. So not nearly all the way up like that. That'd be really messing things up. We just want it at a nice 56 right there. Alright, flip on the noise oscillator. For this one, we're going to use some pink noise. The level is at 55%, and that is all you need to do. Now this is what we have. You see, the reverb filter just adds a little more airiness to it, and it just makes it sound a little less normal, like detune saw waves. It just kind of blends the kind of, I use the word sculpt a lot, but that's the best way to describe it when you're doing weird stuff with the EQ when you're not doing a bunch of drastic, high pass or whatever. When you're doing these kind of things, it sculpts the sound really. Into the effects section, let's throw on some disto. We're going to do some tube distortion here. The drive is at 82%, and this is what we got with all that. Really distorted, really screechy sound right there, which is what we want. Now flipping on the hyper dimension, I didn't use the hyper at all, I just used the dimension. Size is at 0 and the mix is at 53, or just 50 somewhere around there. That's fine, that's just to widen it out and to make it nice and thick. So now this is what we got. Alright, let's throw on a compressor, a multi-band compressor of course. The threshold is at -14.2 and the ratio is 4:1. Everything else is the same except I brought the gain up 2.2. So just a little bit of boosting there. For the bands, we have the high band at 100, the mid band at 138, and the low band is at 0. We didn't want to compress any of those lower frequencies. In fact, we're going to get rid of those later. For the EQ, we have the frequency of this this high pass filter. I always want to say low pass, but it's a high pass. You have the frequency at 598, so that's what we're doing here, just cutting those nasty low ends. The Q factor is at 46%, so it's not a peak much at all, and it's not rolling off. It's the sharpest roll off you can really get without having any resonance. And the gain will do nothing here because there's nothing really to gain in this situation. Flip on a peak for this right EQ. The frequency is at 16632. It's just very high frequency, big numbers. EQ factor is at 35%, and the gain is at, I moved it around. Gain is just 4.4, 4.6, whatever, just somewhere around there, it's fine. That is all for that. Now this is what we got. Alright, really high frequency sound here. Let's flip on a chorus to widen things out a bit. We have the rate at 0.01. Delay 1 is at 0.0 and delay 2 is at 0.3. Super tight here. The depth is at 20 milliseconds. The feedback is at 10%. And this low pass filter, you got to turn all the way up so we're getting all those high frequencies. The mix, I just left it at 50%. 50% sounds pretty good. A nice wide clear sound. Now this is what we got. Not a ton of difference, but it adds a little more voices and just thickens it out a little bit. Alright, and for the last two is going to be a reverb and delay. We're going to flip on a hall reverb for this. The size is at 35%. The decay is at 4.7 seconds. Bring the low cut up so there's no weird low frequencies getting reverbed. That's 37%. And the high cut we're going to bring down to 11%, so we're getting almost all of those high frequencies reverbed. The spin is at 36 and the spin depth is at 39. I just put it in a nice sounding position. I don't know exactly what these two do. It has to work with the timbre of the reverb, how noisy it is versus how straight up with the pitch it is. If it sounds like the pitch, like the original sound, actually just with a release on it, or if it sounds airy like it's in a room. I don't know exactly what they do. However, you can achieve both of those effects by manipulating those.
It just adds a whole, I don't know what it does.
Finally, let's put on the delay. The feedback is at 40%. I'm gonna make sure BPM is on and link is not on for this one, because the left is at 1.8 and the right is at 1.16. Now that's a very nice delay, especially when you put it ping pong. It gets a nice stereo sound without sounding like it's panned weird one way or the other way. So I like doing that when it's on ping pong. With the filter, we're getting most of the frequencies here. We're just, cutting the very highs and rounding off the lows there with this bandpass filter. And the mix is at 30% as well for that. Forget if I told you what the mix of the reverb was. If I didn't, it's okay. The reverb is also at 30%. Now here is the final sound. Pretty cool. It's a pretty simple sound, like there isn't a ton going on, and that doesn't mean that it's not a cool sound. There are some very cool sounds that are pretty simple. It doesn't have to be huge, complex sound design, all this weird stuff going on. Simplicity can be as good as complexity sometimes if you use it in the right situations. Alright, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this sound, drop a like below. Tell me what you think of the remake. Be sure to subscribe for future Serum tutorials, and as always, I will see you guys later. Peace out.